So I chose the title of this talk to reflect in advance what would have to become an amended short story, the tale of an incident that never happened, but is yet happening all the time. This was made a bit more weird, of course, because we scheduled this talk somewhat about a month ago and gave it its title then, before knowing that what would never happen would happen on our way down here this evening, and yet would still be reflective of that title. You with me? It was a struggle, right? It's a lot. I'm all over the place with that. So my daughter and I drove down today from Maryland, about 2.5, 3 hours or so. On our way here, among the many topics we discussed, we talked about some of our favorite rap lyrics or song verses, and some of the memories we've attached to them. Two that came to my mind for me were first seeing Lauryn Hill live twice, performing with a live band, which included a band versus the DJ battle, and it was near perfection. And I thought, just as a quick reminder,
but you ain't saying nothing. Time I settle the score.
I play my enemies like a game of chess.
Playing Mr. Big, I'm gonna get you sucker.
Soldiers.
It's time I settle the score.
you all hear this a little bit?
It's time I settle the score.
Up the L, won't you pull it? Straight to the head with the speed of a bullet. Cutting niggas off, let them make you freaking gullet. Lyrical setting, keep niggas meditate. Head rushes, I give to creative kids and cleans. Dreams of euphoria, aurora, to another galaxy, fallacy. Be this microphone, run you lifted. Lyrically, I'm gifted. Burn on it without the roach clipping. Hinders, mind bender, pleasure cinder. So frequently your nerve endings belong to me. Wrongfully, you put me down, not receiving the full capacity of my smoke. Whack niggas choke from the fumes that I emote. But we make shit. See, even I feel the mahogany L. Natural hallucinogen. Tony Boy's Dominican with estrogen dreams. Release blues, yellows, and greens from Brownsville to Queens.
So just a quick reminder. So when you just to remember, because we don't often hear from her anymore. She's incredibly dope. And whenever I hear even the name Lauryn Hill or the Fugees, I'm taken back to these live shows. And she would stop the show and have the band battle the DJ. It was incredible. Another of my memories was realizing, maybe for the first time, that maybe, just maybe, my daughter's generation would appreciate lyricism as much as mine when seeing her classmates react to Meek Mill's Dreams and Nightmares during the run-up to a football game. So we're outside, there's a football, the warm-ups, everybody's outside, and the people put on. And I'm standing there, and I had not really heard this, but I'm watching. I didn't really listen to Meek Mill like that. But as I heard this come on, and I saw the young people react, rhyming and sharing, I was a little bit impressed. So,
Ain't this what they've been waiting for?
and they put this on, all the kids. Right? What?
I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like this. In a matter of time I spent on some locked up shit in the back of the paddy wagon, cuffs locked on wrist. See my dreams unfold, nightmares come true. It was time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it with a clear eye view. Got shorty, she try to bless me like I said I do, like a nigga snitch.
All right, I'm gonna stop it there, because then quickly I realized he descends into some content I'm not really thrilled with, but I at least appreciated the lyricism. But it kind of quickly goes left from there and becomes more of the nightmare than the dream. But I remember that moment, so I just wanted to drop that in there a little bit. So this was kind of a big deal to me, because I've always hoped that among the many positive attributes of my children would be a healthy appreciation for good lyrics and music. Now, on the way down here, we did have to make a stop at a rest area for some coffee and a bio break. We pull over and go inside. As I come walking out of the restroom, I see my daughter standing kind of staring across the eatery with a weird look on her face. I walk over to her, and as I do, she says, "I think that's Meek Mill over there eating." I said, "Stop playing." No way he is at some random rest area on the way to Virginia. No, really, she said. It is. Let's go speak. I said, I don't know. He may appreciate the quiet right now. Things, he's got a lot going on these days. But as I said that, she was already halfway over to the table and where he was oddly sitting alone eating a sandwich. Meek Mill, she says, it's really nice to meet you. My father and I were just talking about you and how it happens that your dreams and nightmares formed a memory for him. And I just want to say while I'm standing here that while I'm not always thrilled with how women were addressed in your lyrics, I do hope you aren't too bothered by some of the salacious discussion online about your private life happening right now. No Diddy. I began to cringe a little bit, and I was grateful that none of this really happened because for a second or two, as Meek slowly stopped chewing his sandwich and turned to address her comments, I was wondering if this Tyson-Logan or Paul fight, whatever, not Logan, but the other Paul fight, wasn't about to be the only brawl featuring such an age disparity. But Meek was cool. He just turned, smiled, and said thank you, noticed me standing there, shook my hand, which was, I thought, nicely respectful, appreciated that. But as he did that, I saw he was wearing a shirt that represented a verse. I saw that he actually performed during a Hot 97 freestyle some time ago that had been posted at the end of last year to Facebook. On his shirt had a picture of Dr. King with Meek's lyrics beneath the photo. Quote, I had a dream like I'm Martin Luther. I was in the Phantom getting brain like a Harvard student. Now, to understand what happened next, you have to know that for a moment I became an elder embodying the recently passed Baba Oduno Tariq. May he rest in power. See, years ago, I walked into a bookstore in Washington, D.C. wearing my favorite Malcolm X t-shirt. I got some coffee and a muffin, and as I turned around to find my seat, this giant of an African man stood before me looking down at me, only to say, why don't you have Marcus Garvey on that shirt? Now, in that moment, I resented this man, thinking, well, damn, Malcolm's father was a Garveyite, and I can only wear one shirt at a time. I'm still trying to catch up to the depth of Baba's question, though, which had less to do with Malcolm versus Garvey and more to do with how consciousness of youth is shaped outside of the control of that child's family and community. So when I saw Meek's shirt, I could not help but ask if he ever considered that King's dream had more to do with responding to a nightmare and would in fact become, in his own words, a nightmare. Meek was already beginning to frown up a little bit. He pulled out his phone, scrolled a bit, and said, showing me his phone, I've already dealt with this kind of criticism. And he showed me a tweet from May 8th, 2020. I'm not Meek Mandela or Meek Luther King. Meek from the trenches just holding down his people like he said he would when he got rich. Yeah, I hear you, I said. I just can't help that response to the imagery. But it's funny. Mandela and Nelson, I assume, because Winnie was something entirely different, was kept alive only to be turned into a symbol of ascent, of upward mobility as an acceptable means of freeing those in the trenches. King, on the other hand, was assassinated to turn his refusal to ascend in life into a posthumous symbol of having achieved progress for those in the trenches here. And in each case, the people they fought for remain in the trenches, and in each case now have become symbols of freedom that has occurred for no one, nowhere. Okay, Meek said, but I am a dream chaser like him, and they say I look like him too. He laughed a little and showed me another thing on his phone, a Facebook post someone had created at some point, showing the two faces juxtaposed, saying, Meek looks like... Yeah, I've seen the rumor you are both related too. But that's what I'm saying, I said. King is now the most known and least understood figure in human history, second only and maybe to the historical Jesus Christ. King was not chasing dreams. He used a metaphor in one speech, one he had been developing for some time before that famous day in 1963, but in the remaining 5 years of his life, with an increasing criticism of the very capitalism, white supremacy, and violence that maintains our people in the trenches, he said himself the dream had become a nightmare. Meek frowned some more and said something using slang I wouldn't be up on and wouldn't have heard anyway because none of this ever happened. But his point was whatever. I'm out here getting paper. I've been invited to WrestleMania. If you work hard, success is possible. That is the myth and lie King struggled against, and which had him targeted by the federal government and worse. It's weaponized intelligence agencies. Even his dream speech had William Sullivan, who ran Hoover's COINTELPRO, targeting King as a great threat in turning black people to communism and supporting the Cuban Revolution. And remember, King's speech wasn't speaking to an individual or personal dream. King's was a massive collective dream, a revolutionary one, ultimately, because he was even associating racial harmony with a material one. In other words, his point was redistribute wealth and then maybe our children can play together. By the way, I've noticed that even in your dreams bars, they are all about your individual accomplishments, nothing of a community, nothing about those trenches. I already told you, my man, I'm Meek Mill, not Meek Mandela, not Meek Martin Luther King. Whichever version of them is or isn't real, I'm not them. Fair enough, I said. But I do understand more than ever, but he said, I do understand more than ever how celebrity can be misrepresented and how private lives can be made public and in all the wrong or even fake ways. In some spaces, they got me looking crazy right now. I said, I actually don't know anything about that, I said, but King has had his nonviolent direct action and his liberation theology turned into silly, peaceful commercials and claims he was a Zionist supporter of Israel when the man literally said their peace, that is Israel's peace, can only result from the end of their occupation of Palestine. Well, Meek responded, you saw what I posted about that, showing me his phone again in a tweet of the end of 2023, where he said, while everybody not speaking on it, I want to put it on the record in these times. I have Muslim and Jewish family, and as a black man, I do not support anything that result in the death of innocent lives or racism towards humans. I said, I know, Meek. I also have Jews and Muslims in my family. But King was more clear and correct here. The issue isn't to whom we are related, but with whom we side when there are clear issues of colonization and genocide on the table. It doesn't matter that my mother is a Jew, or it doesn't matter that my mother is a Jew. It doesn't matter that my mother is a Jew, or that her mother born in Palestine or that her mother was born in a Palestine that is being wiped out right now by Zionists. So this is all I'm saying when I respond to seeing King symbolized in your verse as having a dream that equates to fellatio in a nice car. Did you see Andor, I asked? Meek looked confused by the out of nowhere question. I did, he said. One way out. I got a little loud, which made him slink back and, kind of like slow down. My bad, I said. That series gets me amped. But one way out signified the call of King's dream, reduced by your verse to something else. One way out meant that for the prisoners to escape, they had to work together, and all had to escape for the plan to work or be real. One man's dream of freedom was insufficient. All had to go. And as King said, quoting Kennedy, if anyone gets in your way, making freedom by peaceful means impossible, then they must be fought, because it is they who have made violent revolution inevitable. But I do think of the collective. I'm speaking for my people in the hood, the trenches. I stood for Tory Lanez too, even compared him to Mumia Abu-Jamal. But this is a problem for me, I said. Tory marketed white lies about NFTs and crypto and claims of breaking the music industry, and then he shot a black woman. Mumia practiced emancipatory journalism as a black revolutionary and was shot by a white police, then likely framed for the shooting of one of them. He remains in prison to this day. Free Mumia, by the way. You and we all are not the same, but are too often quickly and symbolically brought in as some semiotic replacement, all meant to distort each and all involved, making distinguishing one from the other more and more difficult. The same handful of interlocking international conglomerate corporations, the legal fictions that camouflage the ruling elite, are more than ever able to produce you as a celebrity and symbolic stand-in for Dr. King, and to produce Tory, in your context, as a stand-in for Mumia. And they can make hashtag BLM, or Black Lives Matter, become a synonym and a negation all at the same time of the Black liberation movement. Or as Dibruba bin Wahad reminds us, BLM is Black Liberation Movement, not Black Lives Matter. Meek started to wrap up, had finished eating by now, was ready to go. This never happened, so I'm not sure if I'm remembering it correctly, but he said something like the following before leaving. My man, this has been a nice break from my life, but it is now back to reality. The fact is, I am living what best could be considered to be a dream, given where I started and where many of my family and people still are. While you study and teach, I keep thinking of my next move. How do we avoid the next problem and write my way into a new level of dream to avoid my own nightmare? He shook my hand, said peace to my daughter, and then turned with a promo smile and said, see you this weekend at WrestleMania. It was strange because I was wondering, who is he talking to? He threw up two fingers as he walked out saying, dreams over nightmares, or something like that. This never happened, so it's hard to be sure. But as he walked out, I could only say what Frantz Fanon once said of dreams. The work of the colonist is to make even dreams of liberty impossible for the colonized. The work of the colonized is to imagine every possible method for annihilating the colonist. With my daughter, the only one left to be my audience, I added that the reality is that King's dream caused nightmares for the elite. He was hated by the mainstream news and civil rights establishment, and by February of 1968, the Washington Post was calling him a threat to national security. Less than 90 days later, he was killed, with the first to reach his fallen body, an undercover agent, to soon be working with the CIA. Today, he is falsely presented via commercials, bourgeois ceremonies, monuments, and museums, all of which testify against the man that actually lived and was seen as a terrifying threat to power. That is still what we all must become. So now, I could easily talk for hours more, but would rather make it appear as if this is not the case by pausing here to invite questions, criticisms, queries, conundrums, contradictions, even confrontation in response to which I can give extended responses, thus completing the illusion. But I do want to stop there and proceed with that, and I hope peaked enough buttons. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.